All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another live session from the series Engineering Qualification Validation in Australia. And in this live session, number 121, I will be talking about the top 7 mistakes while writing the career episodes. Yes, I said live number 121, which means that for the last 121 weeks, I am here every week, now on Sundays, 8:30 p.m. Brisbane time, talking about a subject related to the engineering qualification validation or professional job here in Australia. But first, for those that don't know me, my name is Gerson Ida, and I'm the founder of www.engineersinaustralia.com, a website to share content of value and useful information about engineering qualification validation in Australia. And I also talk about other subjects related to engineering, like workplace health and safety, environmental management, and how to get your first professional job here in Australia. And if you haven't joined my Telegram group yet, what's Telegram? Telegram is like WhatsApp. It's a messaging app where I send posts, audio, videos, and also I share the PDF of this live session. Obviously, if there are some engagements. Unfortunately, last week nobody answered the question in the Instagram post, so I didn't post the PDF in the Telegram group. But tonight we'll see if you guys engage with me and write the comments, like the post, and write the comments that I'm going to make a little bit later on in Instagram. I will make a PDF of this live session and I'm going to post in my Telegram group. If you're not really part or not a member of the Telegram group yet, I will post in the comments. It's free. You don't need to pay anything. You just need to download the app first. And once you download the app, you can click on this link that I'm pasting in the comments, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and you will be joining my group. All right. And also, if you're interested in the free workshop, I want to become an engineer in Australia. That's the name of the workshop. You can register to the next event that's going to start on the 5th of December. It's a Sunday. We're going to have the opening webinar at 10 a.m. Brisbane time, I believe in Sydney, Melbourne, and Canberra, and even Hobart, I think, because of the daylight savings time. It's going to be, I think, 9 a.m. So if you want to participate in the workshop, you can register, and the link for you guys to register, it's in the comments as well. So I'm just pasting the link if you want to register for the next free online workshop. So let's get down to the business now. And I'm really happy to be here to share my experience in the engineering qualification validation process. And the tonight's session, obviously, top 7 mistakes while you are writing your career episodes. So I'm going to start explaining very briefly what is the career episode. Well, the career episode is one of the reports, one of the 3 reports that you have to write if you are following the CDR pathway. CDR pathway is the competency demonstration report. And this is the pathway that majority of overseas engineers, they will have to follow to validate their engineering qualification in Australia. I'd say majority because just a few countries, about 25 countries, they are part of the Washington Accord, and therefore they can go through the Washington Accord pathway, which is easier. But countries like Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, the Philippines, and majority of all the countries in Europe and Africa and South America, they will need to, engineers, they will have to follow the competency demonstration report. And part of that you have to write 3 reports, 3 types of reports, and one of those types is your career episodes. So a career episode is an account of your engineering education and or your work experience as an engineer. And each career episode focuses upon a specific period or distinct aspect of your engineering activity. This definition comes straight from the Engineers Australia Migration Skills Assessment booklet. If you don't have the booklet yet, I strongly encourage you guys to download the MSA booklet from Engineers Australia and read it very carefully. If you're really serious about validating your engineering qualification, you need to read the booklet very carefully. And each of those career episodes, and you have to write 3 career episodes in total, they must focus on a different period or aspect of your engineering activity. Each episode should focus on how you applied your engineering knowledge and skills in the nominated occupation. This nominated occupation is going to be one of those ones from the ANZ SCO, the Australia-New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupations. So last week I spoke about the ANZ SCO. I even talked about some of the definitions. You need to make sure that the experiences that you utilize in your career episode, it does match the definition in the ANZ SCO occupation definition. All right, so this is pretty much in a nutshell what is a career episode. And as I said, 3 career episodes, and I'm going to talk about now the top 7 mistakes that I usually find in career episodes where I review or give some feedback, especially to my students. Mistake number 1, a very simple mistake, but very common and recurrent, is the main functions in the background section. The career episode, you will have the introduction, the background, your personal engineering activity, and the summary sections. So in the background, you need to be able to put your main functions. So when you're listing the main functions you used to do or you're currently doing, you should be very specific and always put the verb in the past tense. For example, as a design engineer, I have studied the improvements of whatever you did, or another example is I have adjusted the final product, then you describe the product, or I have researched for improvement opportunities in whatever situation you did, or I have designed a structural component or a structural member of whatever was your project. So the main functions needs to be there and need to be very specific, and always you need to put in the past tense, the first person in the past, because remember, the career episode is a narrative of the past. Mistake number 2, it's not describing the engineering problem or task. So that's a very common mistake as well, very simple, but it is a mistake and it is very common. So when you start your personal engineering activity, which is section number 3, after your introduction, the background, you start your personal engineering activity. You should describe in the first paragraph what was the complex engineering problem or task that you will be exploring in the career episode. Then write what was the logic to resolve that problem. And then in the following paragraphs, you can then dive in with more details with the steps of this logic. You need to remember that the career episode is a narrative. And as a narrative, looks like a story. And the assessor is going to read your narrative, your career episode, and the assessor needs to understand and picture the situation. So if you start talking about things and etc., and if you don't really set up in the beginning what was the problem or what was the project or what was the task, it's going to be difficult for the assessor to picture, for example, if you describe a problem, well, if you don't really be very specific about the problem in the beginning of the person engineering activity, the assessor will probably going to have difficulties to picture in his or her mind what was the problem or what was the task. So that's a very common mistake. It's usually because we engineers, we're not very good writers naturally, and we sometimes mix up with the logic in terms of how we're going to structure our career episode. Mistake number 3 is sometimes engineers, they describe the way that they describe teamwork. So when you're describing the solution of the task or the problem, it is common that engineers, they use the teamwork narrative. So they don't use the first person narrative, they use the plural of the first person, which is us. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you say we as a team, or we did it, or the team did it, etc., etc. You can use, or you can refer to the team as long as you are clear of the roles and functions that you performed. Remember, the assessor is there to assess your competencies, your capabilities. Being part of a team is one of the competencies that you need to demonstrate, but most importantly is for you to demonstrate what you did when you were working in a team environment. So you can say that the group or the team delivered the project. However, my specific activities were, and then you list your specific activities. You narrate in the first person what you did within that team. It is important to reinforce that Engineers Australia, again, is assessing your competencies and skills as an engineer, not the rest of the project team. He or she, the assessor, they don't want to know about what your team did. They want to know what you did and what you did in that team. So that's going to demonstrate your competencies in 3.6, for example, which is about teamwork as a member or a team leader. Although it is important to describe how you worked as a team player or a team leader, you will be able to demonstrate this, as I said, in the last competency, 3.6, how you demonstrated your abilities to work as a team member or as a team leader. So very important to make sure that you clarify your own role when you were working as a team. Mistake number 4, and if you have any question, guys, you can write in the comments. I'll be keeping an eye here in the comments. Unfortunately, we probably lost a few people when I had to restart Instagram, but if you have questions, just put in the comments and I'll be going back to the questions very, very soon. Mistake number 4, watch out the text font standards. This is kind of like a procedural or in terms of the format of your career episode, but you need to watch out the text font standards. And you got to be aware of the text font standards. Please ensure that the whole text is in one text font standard. What do I mean with that? I mean that it needs to have the same font style. Let's say if you're using Times New Roman, use Times New Roman for the whole document. If you're using size number 11, for example, make sure that you use size number 11 for the whole document. I've seen in many career episodes that sometimes there are different fonts with different sizes, different styles in the report. And this could be an indication that you got your text from different sources. And this could lead to a perception of a plagiarism. Even though if you haven't plagiarized anything, but when you have in your career episodes fonts with different sizes, different styles. It appears to be that you ended up getting those paragraphs from different sources. So just make sure that you keep consistency. You don't really kind of raise any suspicion about where you got your text from. And also, obviously, it doesn't look very professional when the report doesn't really present very well. Presentation of the report is also one of the assessment criteria. There's actually writing a report is one of the competencies, and the way that you present your report, it can probably use as part of your assessment criteria as well. And as I mentioned before, I'm just going to show you guys how the PDF is going to be. So that's the PDF there. So I'm just going to get in my screen. So that's a PDF. That's today's session. Top 7 mistakes while writing the career episodes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a picture of this PDF, and then I'm going to do a post in Instagram. So yes, live session, I'll do everything on the spot. So I'm going to create a post now. Next, and put here right in the comments. What did you learn tonight about the mistakes? Okay, and share. So it is sharing. And I believe it shared now. Yes, it is in my Instagram. If you don't follow me yet in Instagram, please consider following my profile, arroba or at Gerson Ida. And that's the post. So for me to create a PDF of tonight's session and post in my Telegram, you just need to like this post and put in the comments, what did you learn tonight about the mistakes? If I have engagements, which means likes and comments, I will then make this Word document as a PDF, and I'm going to post in the Telegram, protected by a password that I'm going to reveal towards the end of this live session, so you stay with me until the end. Okay, so going back there, get my notes again. Mistake number 5 now. That's another very common mistake, maybe because we are not very good writers. And mistake number 5 is not using enough words. Some engineers, they just want to finish the CDR, the Competency Demonstration Report, and write very short career episodes. They want to finish the CDR as quick as they can. One, because obviously it's not the most, it's not the funniest thing and not the most pleasure thing to do, to write reports. But if you are serious about getting your engineering qualification validated, applying then for a visa that perhaps a permanent visa that will allow you to stay in Australia, you have to do sometimes boring stuff like writing reports. Sorry. But you want to finish as quick as you can, but you also need to finish in the best quality in a very strong way. But sometimes when you just want to finish very quicker, it can be a critical mistake. Why is that? A lot of people, they say, yeah, but the booklet talks about a minimum of 1,000 words and a maximum of 2,500 words. Yes, the booklet says that. It recommends a minimum and a maximum number of words. If you are a very good writer, and if you are able to be very concise, objective, and if you understand very well the concepts of competencies and you know what you're writing about, perhaps you can, in just 1,000 words or 1,500 words, you can demonstrate with good evidences all the 16 competencies that Engineers Australia is requiring you to do. But if you are like me, and probably the majority of engineers that we are not very good writers, and we don't really know, well, now I do, but in the past I didn't really know much about the competencies, how to properly demonstrate the evidences of those competencies. You will need to probably write close to the maximum number of words, which is 2,500 words. Why is that? Because the more you write, probably the more you can demonstrate the evidences of each of the 16 competencies. Some of the things that you believe you will be addressing the competencies, the assessor may think that you are not addressing. So that's why you need more words, because there will be paragraphs that probably is not going to be good, but then there will be other paragraphs that will be good enough. So if you don't really write close to the maximum numbers, if you write just about 1,000 words, you could be in the risk of writing just one paragraph addressing one competency that you think or believe it's addressing that competency, but then the assessor is not happy with that paragraph. And then if the assessor, he or she crossed that out, and then you don't have any other paragraph addressing that competency, you're in trouble, because then you don't have any other paragraph addressing that competency. So when I submitted my CDR application, all of my career episodes, they were very close to the 2,500 words. So I could demonstrate all my competencies in a very solid way. Mistake number 6 is when you attach a table without referencing. Remember, Engineers Australia, they asking you to attach photos, figures, tables, diagrams, formulas. They don't really like too much, a lot of calculations. You can demonstrate some of the calculations, but you don't need to put too much. But the supporting documentation, which is tables, diagrams, pictures, photos, technical specifications, etc., it is a good idea for you to include that. But you got to remember that you need to do the proper legend with the references. So if you're taking a diagram from a technical standard, for example, you need to put in the legend, let's say diagram number 1 about whatever from technical standard, let's say from Brazil, NBR, whatever. So you need to reference that. Why is it important to reference? Because that diagram was not created by you. So you need to give credits to whoever created that document. If you don't reference, Engineers Australia assessor will interpret that you are trying to use that work as being your work. And because it's not, it's classified as plagiarism. So very important. You can use a diagram or a table from a technical standard, but you need to reference and give the credit that is coming from a technical standard that you used to do that engineering work. Okay, we'll go back there. Also, another important thing about tables and diagrams, especially if you're using from your home country, let's say a table that you used in your work, there could be some titles that they are in, let's say, Portuguese. If you're from Brazil, it could be some titles in Portuguese. It's important that the key ones, you probably need to do a legend with the translation into English. So assessors, when they read your table, they can read the title there, or the description of that column or the row, and then you have the translation in English so they can understand what you're talking about. And also mistake number 7, that's our last mistake today. It's when you're using the expression, when you write in your career episodes, I was responsible for. So using the expression being responsible for is a mistake. Some engineers, they make this mistake when they write that they were responsible for a task, they were responsible for a project, they were responsible for an activity. You need to be very careful with this terminology. Why is that? Because being responsible does not mean that you have done that task. The responsible person could have asked somebody else to do the task, and then let's say that you were the responsible, you haven't done the task, you asked somebody else to do the task, and then you just reviewed and approved. Because you were responsible, you asked somebody else to do it, they did it, and then you just reviewed and approved. In this case, it does not demonstrate your competency. Competency means that you have the theoretical knowledge and you applied that theoretical knowledge. You've done it. After you've done it, you can then obviously be responsible, you can review and approve. But in this case that you're trying to demonstrate your competencies to Engineers Australia, it's important that to use the experiences that you actually did. So if you did the task or activity or the work, instead of saying that you were responsible for that, just say that you did it. I have done this. Instead of saying I was responsible for the delivery of, I was responsible for the design of that structure. If you did the calculation and the design of the structure, instead of saying I was responsible for the design of the structure, just write it directly or straight. I have designed that structure. So you're trying to say the same thing, but one is to say that you actually did it instead of being responsible. If you have another example, if you have, let's say that there was some calculation and you actually you did the calculation, you calculated the thing, instead of saying I was responsible for the calculation of that mechanical part, let's say, if you actually did it, just say it or write it. I calculated the stresses of that mechanical part, whatever. So instead of saying I was responsible for the calculation of that mechanical part. So just be straight and direct so you can demonstrate your competencies. So just going to the PDF so I can show you guys how it is taking shape. So again, don't forget my post in Instagram that I just did it. This one, which is the picture of that. Please like my post and write in the comments what did you learn tonight about the mistakes when you're writing your career episodes. If I have likes and comments on that post, I will make this Word document as a PDF and I'm going to post in my Telegram group. And the password to the PDF is going to be protected by a password, and the password is going to be, let's see what password I set up, is going to be top 7 mistakes. Everything in low fonts. I'll paste in the comments so you guys know it. Those that are not watching, they're not going to know what this word means. But if you are here, you will see what is the password. So top 7 mistakes, that's going to be the password for this PDF. And as you can see, mistake number 1, main functions in the background section. Mistake number 2, not describing the engineering problem or task. Mistake number 3, describing teamwork. Mistake number 4, watch out the text font standards. Mistake number 5, not using enough words. And mistake number 6, attach a table without referencing. And mistake number 7, using being responsible for. So guys, this is the top 7 mistakes that I picked up in many career episodes that I reviewed, and they're very common and recurrent. Sometimes you think, oh yeah, Jason, but I thought that there were more mistakes. Yes, there are more mistakes. There are many more mistakes. Where I, for example, I teach my students in my online mentoring program. I've got a specific module just about mistakes, and actually I got a document with 13 pages that my students they have access to, where they see all the mistakes that engineers usually they make, so they can avoid doing those mistakes. And as I said in the beginning of the live session, if you're interested in the free online workshop that I'm going to promote in December, starting on the 5th of December, 10 a.m. Brisbane time, you can register for free using the link that I left in the comments. So you just need to put your email and your name and then submit, making sure that you check your inbox to get your confirmation email. And also in the confirmation email, you will receive an invitation to join the WhatsApp group. I've got a WhatsApp group just for the workshop that I can send just reminders about the workshop. And now I'm going to check if there is any question there. I just grab my mobile to see if there was any question. No question, looks like. So I'll check YouTube. Yeah, no question there in YouTube. And I think there's no questions in Facebook. All right. Well, if there's no question there, I would like to thank you guys very much. And I hope to see you next Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Brisbane time. I think it's going to be 7:30 p.m. in Sydney, Melbourne, Hobart, and Canberra, I think. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.